sheltering in place, and you're probably doing the same back in India. So just a little bit about me is that I've been consulting for about for over 20 years, and that includes a number of things. I generally some of the things I do is I write stuff. I do consulting of various sorts. I also write things. I sell some reports, make and sell reports, and I've been putting on digital storage events. In my field is in digital storage and memory, and that's just a little bit about me. And this our second class of three that we're planning on. The next one will be next Monday. And the first one we had last week on why do consulting and getting started as a consultant. And for this session, we'll be talking about running your consulting business. And then next week, we'll be talking about some consulting best practices and some anecdotes and personal experiences during my years doing consulting that might be of interest to you folks. So today we'll be addressing a number of topics. We'll talk about making consulting a full-time job, running a consulting business, letting other people know what you do, publicity, marketing, that sort of thing. Various types of consulting businesses. We'll talk a bit about contracts and statements of work. We'll talk about your employees, your contractors, mentors, advisors, and professional associations. We'll talk about licenses and IP, patents, and that sort of thing. We'll talk a bit about what you should charge clients, and we'll finish up before our conclusions by discussing maintaining a work-life balance. So first, let's talk about making consulting a full-time job. So you might start out doing consulting projects on the side. We talked a bit about that in the last class, but perhaps you're laid off. That's what happened to me when I decided to go full-time as a consultant, or you get tired of working for others and decide to try consulting as a full-time job. So your first job as a full-time consultant is to get and to keep clients. So perhaps your former employer may hire you for special projects or because they need particular things you know about. So if it's in your area of expertise, or perhaps friends and colleagues know about possible projects. And having a network helps a lot. In fact, knowing that you've got something already lined up before you go off and become a consultant is probably a pretty good idea if you can. Though if you're laid off, you may not have enough warning to be able to do something like that. But you've got to be resilient, got to be able to get on your feet pretty quickly. You also need to set up your business, whatever that's going to be, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. And you'll need to figure out what to charge your clients and learn about contracts. And as a business, you need to make others aware of what you do. So marketing and publicity are very important aspects of a business. And so the following material in this talk today may help you get started as a full-time consultant. And we'll have some time, I believe, for discussion and answer your questions afterwards. So you may want to gather those questions. I think probably they want you to put them in the comment section on the webinar here, and we can get to those at the end of the talk. So let's talk first about running your consultant business. So consulting is a business. It's supposed to generate income enough to pay for expenses and provide additional money that you can use to compensate the employers or owners like you. You might be a sole owner of a consulting practice, or maybe you're sharing that ownership with others, pooling resources in some way. You will need to keep records, financial and professional records. You might employ other people full-time, part-time, or occasionally for various activities. And you'll need to know how to price out projects and make and sign contracts. And you'll need to pay taxes of various sorts. And you also need to provide health insurance and other types of insurance for your business and home. And of course, these things are based upon my experience as a consultant in the US. So there may be things that are different about consulting in India. So you need to, modify that depending upon your circumstances. You'll need to have an office, laboratory, or other place to work in. And then that comes to a question of, should you rent space? So it's an additional expense. Or should you use space you have, for instance, in your home? And a part of that is also, can you work effectively in your home? Can you get a distraction-free place where you can do your work or not. And that's another reason why some people will rent space to do their work. You'll need to keep current in your field and develop new skills. And that's one thing about consulting, is it can give you the opportunity to learn new stuff and to apply what you've learned. And you will need to publicize your business and get clients. You need to collect fees from clients. Sometimes that's easy, sometimes not so easy. And you should think about long-term planning for your business. What will you do? How will you do it? How long will you stay in business? And then, of course, for instance, during situations like the current pandemic, you need to be flexible and you need to be able to modify your plans for your business, or maybe make changes that fit more into the current climate or the way things are. And if you have, in some cases, the consultants may actually make a product of some kind. If you have an ongoing business and you have products, you need to think about succession planning. How do you get those products out? Well, first of all, how do you get those products out? What's your supply chain? That sort of thing. But also, you've got an ongoing business. If you're incapacitated or when you retire, what's going to happen to that business? And if it is something that has some longer term value besides just your work, there may be some value in the business itself that you need to think about what you're going to do with that. So there's several ways to do business as a consultant. This is based on U.S. law. So again, this may be a bit different in India, but you can be a partner or a sole proprietor, and that may be the easiest way. But you still need to separate your personal from business expenses, ideally. A sole proprietor is the simplest and most common structure for people to start a business. It's unincorporated, owned and run by one individual, and makes no distinction between the business and you, the owner. You're entitled to all profits and are responsible for all your business debts, losses, and liabilities. Now, a partnership is a formal arrangement by two or more parties in order to manage and operate a business and share its profits, which in this case would be consulting projects of various sorts. And so there's several types of partnership arrangements. In particular, all partners share liability and profits equally in generally in a partnership business. So you can incorporate. Now, incorporation gives in the U.S. gives you some liability protection, particularly for your personal assets, but it requires more paperwork. It creates a separate legal entity from yourself called the corporation. And so corporations, under some situations, can protect your personal assets. They may also enhance your business's credibility and allow easier access to capital. That is, if you want to sell stock, if that makes sense for you. A corporation is taxed independently from its employers and owners, can use business expenses that aren't available or is generous for self-employed individuals, might include travel, entertainment, employee salaries, and pension and retirement contributions, health benefits, etc. If it makes sense, you can sell ownership in your corporation and issue shares to the owners, that is, those who buy the shares, as a way to raise capital if you need that for your operations. But you may also need to have ways to compensate your shareholders. So they're giving you money, you need to give them some money or some return back for what they put in. So, these different sorts of incorporated, unincorporated, and incorporated businesses are things to think about. Now, in the U.S., there's three different types of corporations. There's a limited liability company, an S corporation, and a C corporation. And I'm not going to go much further into this, just because this is U.S. law and it may not apply in India. We did do a little bit of research just to see some websites provide some information on consulting in India. So you might want to check out these websites to find a bit about the situation for doing various sorts of engineering work in India. Could be useful to you. So let's get into another aspect, which is you're going to have probably one employer or one worker, which is you, but you may have others. You may have people that help you out on a part-time or full-time. Have contractors that you hire to do various things for you, for instance. And if you work alone, don't do a regular payroll even for yourself, then this won't be a big issue for you. You're just yourself. But if your regular consulting work gets too busy, or you get some ancillary business work, cuts into other important activities, for instance, family obligations, You may want to consider hiring part-time or full-time employees if the work gets so much that it's hard for you to do that and meet your other obligations. You may need help. You may also wish to contract out services to other people, such as payroll, editing written materials, etc. And you may also occasionally, or perhaps more often, work with other consultants or businesses in order to complete projects for clients. I've done that myself, where I brought other folks, colleagues on board to help with things when it's more than I can do, or it involves some disciplines beyond those that I have the best familiarity with. For instance, if you need expertise in an area where you aren't an expert, or if it is a large project requiring more effort than you can put into it alone to accomplish the project in the allocated time, then you may, for instance, want to bring someone in to help. You may also want to bring interns into your business for short-term help and training and to evaluate them as potential employees. That's if your business is big enough, if it's more than just you. And then you may be looking at attracting and retaining employees, just like a regular business. So in addition, you want to be available as a contractor to help other consultants if their projects, for instance, so you have time available and the work is within your expertise. So sometimes your colleagues and other people doing consulting work can also help you to get some work working with them. And working with others can provide socialization and opportunities to discuss approaches, new ideas, and approaches to your business, as well as the thing that you're immediately working on. So it can be a source of socialization and inspiration. Also important is getting connections with other people, for instance, mentors, advisors, and professional associations. So many businesses, including yours, could benefit from the experiences of other people working in your field or similar fields. As a starting consultant, you may want to connect with a more experienced consultant who might give you occasional advice, suggestions, or even help you find clients and opportunities. So someone who potentially is even acting as a mentor. So being friendly, being open to working with other people can help you both in your consulting business, in your business finding work itself, but also in understanding how to do your business and to find ways that you might improve it. If it makes sense, you may even have some permanent or semi-permanent advisors. So if you do that, you need to work out with them what they get from an association with you and your business. Why would they do it? What does it help them with? Because they're putting in a reasonable commitment of time at that point. And you can also benefit from being part of a professional association, such as the IEEE and the IEEE Consultants Network. And associations like that can help you keep your knowledge in your field up to date. They can provide opportunities for material for reading, conferences, webinars like we're doing today, or activities at the local chapter level at IEEE sections. These professional associations can also help you find out about possible consulting opportunities. I know in the consultants network in Silicon Valley Consultants Network that those who are members, when projects come in, there's an email that will distribute out these opportunities to people, so it may help them to find possible jobs. In addition, professional associations, including the IEEE chapters and sections, can give you opportunities to assume leadership positions that can allow you to give back to your profession, but they also, if you do it well, can contribute to your reputation, broaden your network, give you some experience in management if you haven't had that before, and possibly lead to additional work and other opportunities. Everything that you do that puts you in the public light, if you do a good job of it, it can help you in terms of your potentially of your work. If nothing else, just people thinking about you and being aware of what you do. So now we come into the whole idea of what type of engineer are you or do you need to be? So engineers and again, this may, some of the things I'm saying here may depend a lot upon, the laws in your jurisdiction that you're in. But engineers and other technical professionals generally have college degrees in their field of expertise. As they work, they get years of experience doing various things. They may work in many fields and can be involved in research and discovery, product development, product or corporate marketing, product production, supply chain management, many other functions in engineering management, and other types of work as well. So at least in many US states, these engineers do not need a government license to do the work they do unless they're doing projects for a public authority or their work has a direct impact on public health and safety. That is true, for instance, in California. And in particular, being in Silicon Valley, for many types of engineering in advanced state-of-the-art fields, there are no licenses that cover the sort of work these engineers do. So in a sense, if you're just creating a field, it's hard to get a license in that field. There's no tests, there's no things that you can do to become experienced except just do it. Professional engineers, PEs, are, this in the US, of course, are licensed and assume particular personal liability and can sign off on public projects and work that has a direct impact on public health and safety. So they're held to a higher standard, legal standard, and they do particular types of work where that professional engineering has a value to them in general. And in the US, these professional engineers must complete a 4-year college degree. They work under a professional engineer for at least 4 years, pass 2 intensive competency exams, and earn a license from their state's licensure board. And in addition, to retain that license, they have to maintain and improve their skills throughout their career. In the case of, in the US again, for some government projects, there must be a professional engineer available to sign off on engineering plans and work, although there may be non-professional engineers that are engaged in that actual work. So this is the idea of a professional engineer is licensed versus a regular engineer who does not have that license. And the licenses are in various types of engineering as well. So let's move on to inventions and intellectual property. So in the course of your consulting work, you may create various types of intellectual property. That's IP, in other words, such as patents, copyrights, trademarks, various sorts of things of that sort. And your consulting agreements and contracts ideally should deal with who has ownership or licenses to use any IP developed in the course of a project. And it is best to come to an agreement up front with clients in this in order to avoid issues that may develop later. Before something gets started, it's a lot easier to negotiate than after something is finished and the client thinks they own everything and you didn't think they do. It's best to lay out who owns what ahead of time and have an agreement on that. That's where these contracts come into value. So although the rules differ country by country, IP developed by a consultant, independent of any consultant's project and not using any resources or IP from any clients, are owned by the consultant. So I know several consultants who basically have IP that they've developed, including patents, trade secrets, trademarks, etc., that are part of what they offer their clients. For instance, they may license IP to the client for a particular application, as an example of that. And technical consultants may wish to spend some of their time patenting their individual inventions, creating trademarks and copywriting software algorithms, and other written works that they do. So that's part of the IP you generate. So you may want to take some time to document and make that official. There are resources for creating patents in the reference materials slide at the end of, actually at the end of the next week's presentation. We'll have a whole bunch of resources on patents, on forming corporations, things of that sort that you can refer to. Now we get into the interesting question of what should you charge clients? So a general rule is that you should charge your clients a reasonable fee, both you think it's reasonable, that covers your costs, including the time to acquire clients and projects, and provides you with a source of revenue that allows you and your family to live comfortably. Another general rule of thumb is to charge what the market will bear. What is it that people expect to be paying? You want to be charging that much. There are many factors in determining what you should charge clients, which include various aspects of the project, prior experience with this sort of work, the client's budget. That's important. If you actually want them to pay you, they need to have the money to cover what you want to charge them. Your need for work, do you need work? You haven't had work, you haven't done anything for a while, you need some work, you might be willing to give someone a discount. And of course, the current economic climate in general. So some information on maybe how you should charge clients. IEEE USA, I'm the past president of IEEE USA, has conducted an annual consultants fee survey for some years. And the participants get some free access to the results, or you can purchase the survey. And here's the links to the 2019 survey here. And a couple of quotes from that survey, just to give you an idea. Median hourly rate consultants charge this year, this is 2019, is $160, reflecting a $10 increase over last year's report. The typical consultant who's been in the profession for less than 15 years reported this hourly rate. Those respondents with 25 to 34 years of experience reported $175. Highest median hourly rate. However, the rate for those with 35 or more years declined to $154 an hour. Not sure why that is. Maybe it's because their expenses are less, and so they just tend to charge less. Education levels remain a significant factor in how much consultants charge. This year, those with the PhD have a $40 advantage with a median hourly rate of $200. Consistent with last year's report, there's virtually no difference between the hourly rates of consultants with a bachelor or a master's degree. So those are just some bits of information from this consultants fee survey report from IEEE USA. And there may be other sources of information on what clients charge as well, but these can be useful for you to get sort of an objective or general trend idea of what people are charging. So we talked about how you get charged, talked about things you could do. How do you make sure that you get paid for the work you've done? So a small business, like a consultancy, can't afford to have too much overdue unpaid invoices. You can't pay your bills with IOUs. So how can you improve the payment of money owed to you? So here's some ideas. Now, the best approach, and the one that may be best for preserving the relationship with your clients and getting future business, is to gently remind your clients when money is due that may have just forgot. Or you might say, by the way, just want to I'm working on my budget for the near future. Just want to get an idea, when do you think you might be able to pay me for this project, for example? Just give me an idea on that. So you're kind of getting a soft commit from them. Again, probably you only want to do that if you're approaching or after the date when you're supposed to have been paid. So make sure that your contract with your client spells out when payments are due, and that your clients understand and agree with the payment terms. And you might even put into the contract that you'll get paid interest for outstanding debt beyond a certain point. There apparently are some people that do that. Another approach, particularly where the consulting involves product or IP development, is withhold release of any IP or licenses until after you are paid. This may also be useful for people that do expert witness cases. And the final resort might be to write off the debt and perhaps not do business with that client again until the owed money is paid, or turn the matter over to debt collectors. But the latter is probably not a good one for generally for your reputation, but it is an option, and some people do that. Now, one of the getting into things beyond just running your business, and I think this is an important thing to be thinking about here, is maintaining a work-life balance. Running your own business takes time. You must make sure that many different things happen when they're supposed to happen, and this can take effort. It can take attention, but running your own business is not what life ideally should be about. Using your business to help you do the things you want to do in your life, not the business be the only thing you get to do in your life. So a successful life involves more than just having a business and earning a living. And like any other happy and successful entrepreneur, because you are an entrepreneur, a consultant should make sure that you leave time for other important parts of life, such as family, keeping in shape and healthy, and enjoying the various benefits of life. So this work-life balance is very important, having a rewarding consulting career. And like any other work, to feel happy doing the things you're doing, to feel satisfied and that you're making a difference. So you may want to consider getting help for some aspects of your business to free you up to focus on the core parts of your business, and also to provide time for family and other things that are important besides your business. That might include engaging with the services of bookkeepers, accountants, for instance, to help you with your financial records and taxes. I did my own finances for many, many years. And, sometimes I'd forget tax payments to do and things of that sort. And finally, I hired someone else to do them. That was their job, and I was hiring them. So that freed me up to focus more on other parts of my business. And I think helped me in terms of being able to do my business more effectively. still meet my financial needs and get things done on time. It may involve hiring occasional copy readers to proofread documents that you write before submitting them to catch things you might not see. And it may include joining professional groups such as the IEEE, making use of various group benefits such as insurance, training, and networking that sometimes are available. It may include hiring some type of marketing services to help get the word out about what you do if you're not good at that or don't know what to do yourself. It may include hiring lawyers or other people to help with patent applications, more complicated contracts, and various things of that sort. And so we've gone through a number of things here in this class, talking about consulting being a rewarding full-time occupation versus just doing something on the side, which we talked about in the prior class. We talked about in consultant being an entrepreneur, basically taking risk and running a business and organizing a business. And you also point out that you need to learn to make contracts and find and retain clients of various sorts. You should learn about intellectual property of various type and make clear what you own and what your clients own, ideally in your contracts and things of that sort. You should also know how to charge for your services and how to negotiate with clients on project and payment terms. This would be something that you both mutually agree upon. And finally, to remain productive, you need to have a balance between work and the rest of your life. And these are very important aspects to be a successful consultant, but in general, just to be successful and feel satisfied with what you do and that you provide a service. So with that, I'm open for questions and discussion with folks on either the first or the second lecture here. So go ahead, folks, if you've got some questions there. And I think that the questions go through the comments section. So if you want to put anything in there, go ahead. Or maybe you want to open it up, unmute everyone so they can ask questions. I'm open to that. Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that as well, Tom. So thank you for the insights on the second session, which shared insights on running consulting business. So for participants, if you have any questions, you can do raise your hand so that we can mute you and you can ask questions to Tom. In the meantime, I see one question which is posted to you, Tom. So probably if you take that, I'm not sure if you can see that or.
I just opened it up there. Yeah, the question I think is somebody started doing human resource consulting, and his first client asked the person to submit a proposal. What all should be included in the proposal, and how do I know what I should charge? So some good questions there. I guess the first thing you need to do is clarify what work they'd like you to do, because in your proposal you should find out what they want to do and then tell them the things that you can do. You know, maybe it's everything they want you to do, in which case you state that in the proposal. In terms of how to know what you should charge, I tried to give some suggestions of things there you may want to look at. What can you get some idea what other people doing similar work have charged? Can you ask the client for a budget? You know, what is it they think is reasonable? And if that sounds reasonable to you, you might come to an agreement on that. There's various approaches, but it's going to end up, again, being something that's mutually agreed upon by the client and by you as the person who's doing the work. Next, another question came up here. What are the initial hurdles in starting a consulting business? How do we overcome them? So probably the biggest initial hurdles are the biggest hurdle is getting people to hire you and getting people to know about you. So I think the thing is, to get business going, you need to be going out and talking to people. You need to be letting them know that you're doing this work. So when I got started, that meant having a business card. I created a website, you know, for what things I did, and I also, you know, started writing and speaking about stuff, so it was part of it was getting the word out that you're there and the kind of stuff that you do, getting cards out, meeting with people. Back in the day when we used to have physical meetings and stuff, trade shows, going to trade shows and talking to people at trade shows, finding out what people are looking for and letting people know what you do might be good ways of meeting folks. You know, for instance, talking to if you're an engineer, talking to engineers there and finding out from them, the kind of stuff they're doing. Let them know the kind of things that you do that might be useful for them. Kind of explore what is it that people are after, and does that match the kind of things that you can help with. So I think the biggest thing is to get out there. Don't assume people are going to come to you if they don't know about you. So you need to go out there and let people know what you do and that you're out there and available. And then get some projects and work so that you can get those references and additional work. So the biggest hurdle is getting work. The next hurdle is getting the next work. But it depends. It depends an awful lot upon people having a good opinion of what you do, and telling other people about that, getting the word out, getting more people to know what it is. It's something that builds up over time. So being a consultant is not something that you're just going to be. For most people, it's not going to be, I'm just going to be at my desk doing the work I know how to do. You're going to be doing more than that. You're running a business. You have to act like a businessman. So, or business person anyway. Another question came up. What sort of necessary precautions legally are advisable before starting a consultant? Does consultants no prior experience in consulting? So I think it's really useful. There's actually books out there on consulting contracts and talking about things you can put in a contract. So I think a really good idea would be to get some of those books, or there might be webinars, things like that on that as well, and just checking out, the kind of things that that might be a concern, depending upon the kind of work you do, that might be a concern or that you want to think about, and you want to put some terms in there that are part of an agreement. So also you want to, you need to state what the terms are and what you're doing the work. Does it actually involve delivering? If you're going to get paid when a product is delivered or something finite is delivered, is it based upon advice and information? Is it done on a best efforts basis? Right? It's the best information I could find. These are all things that you need to sort of clarify and work out with the client and how you're doing work. So again, I advise you probably want to do a bit of reading on that and look at some books, maybe webinars and things of that sort that may give you some idea. Another question here: will AI revolutionize consulting business by introducing digital consulting bots? Given the big three starting their own bot-based consulting models, how can individual consultants adapt to this upcoming scenario? So it all depends on what we're talking about. There's probably some things where a bot that is some kind of an agent-based probably artificial intelligence system can find information out and provide advice of that sort. There may be some value in that, but I think at least right now, we don't have robots that can design circuits the way that a human can, or think about multiple contingencies the way that people can. So in the long run, there might for instance, these also could be tools for the consultant to use. So sometimes knowing how to use these things has value itself. But there are things that automated systems are able to start doing that people can't. But there still remains an awful lot of things, especially in design and making judgment and advising people on things that the human the human capability helps a lot. So, and it's not just consultants are going to be impacted by things that are getting automated. Of course, it's every type of a person who works. So it's something you need to be aware of, need to be up to date on what's possible, but also make sure that you create a differentiation between what they can do and what you can do. Can you talk about pros and cons of teaming of consultants? So yes. So if you have a permanent partnership with some people, you're in business with them. It's a very tight relationship. If you ever fall out with each other or have an argument, or something gets in the way, that could be an issue for your business. It could have financial implications potentially. So that's definitely something that could be bad. If you work, on the other hand, working with other people can be very rewarding as well, and can help you to perhaps even get more work than you can get by yourself. So if you have multiple people who are taking on projects and they help each other working on those projects, it can be a valuable way of continuing your business. And so it all depends upon the people. It depends upon, just like in any other human interactions, the people, their interaction. Generally, though, if you're trustworthy and if all of you are trustworthy and if you have good values and treat each other respectfully and appropriately, it can lead to long-term associations that can be mutually rewarding. So there can be issues. I think a lot of it depends upon, there may be circumstances that could cause issues that happen. A lot of it's, though, I think is, the personalities of the people, and will you be able to work together long term or not? And should it be a permanent connection or a connection as needed? I think all those things are things you have to think about and evaluate yourself and the people you're working with to see what's gonna be the best way for you to work with other people. Are there other questions? Oh, any plans in India, sir? Yeah, I haven't traveled anywhere for months now. I actually, I've been to India and I've been to Bangalore, I think about 3 or 4 times now. I actually gave a IEEE Consumer Electronics Society distinguished lecture talk in Bangalore in 2010, if I remember right. And that was the month after the Consumer Electronics Society chapter started. So I've been to Bangalore before. I'd love to come again sometime when when things when people can travel again and not worry about getting sick. So yes, India would be, love to come to India. I like visiting people in other areas. I think, you really broaden your experience and understanding of things by doing that. And the people in India that I've worked with have been very kind and enjoyed visiting there.
Thank you, Tom, for that.
Although the traffic is awful in Bangalore. Go ahead.
So yeah, so seems like there was one question which was missed. So I am reading it for you.
Oh, please,
so, yeah. It says, what do you think is the biggest change that has happened in consultants' sphere of knowledge in the last year?
The biggest to the consultants' what of knowledge?
Sphere of knowledge is what the participants asked.
Oh, the consultant's sphere of knowledge. Okay, so well, the biggest thing in this last year is working remotely. An interesting thing about a lot of consultant work, for many people, they're already working remotely. There are many people like me, basically work out of their house. And so the things that other people are learning how to do is something they oftentimes have been doing for a while now. But the other part of that is uh, uh, you're working remotely, but you also don't have the kind of connections with people that you've been able to get, say, like I'm in Silicon Valley, right? And we have lots of trade shows here and stuff. I haven't been to any of them for months now. They haven't had any of them for months. There's been these virtual online events, and I think part of it is one of the biggest trends right now is how can you work remotely? How can you interact remotely and continue your business that formerly required a lot of face-to-face time and interactions with people? So I think the creation of these remote tools and being able to use them effectively and what works best for different types of interaction and and also learning about the good and bad of various sorts of tools and approaches. I think that's some of the biggest things that this pandemic, I think, is teaching us. And also, I think, and I've been doing some talks on this, in the long run, this is going to go on for a while, it looks like. And apparently, even people that get COVID don't have a long-term immunity. So, this may go on until we get a vaccine. Is that this could change our increasing familiarity with these tools, with doing things remotely, not interacting with each other without actually being there, could have a big impact on a lot of the way that we work going forward. There may be less physical travel and a lot more of this kind of interaction that people do long run. That has some good effects, has some things are missing from it. Still, it's nothing quite like actually meeting somebody face to face, but these tools are probably going to get better as a consequence of this. People actually working remotely, maybe even not commuting to work, could become a much more common thing, can become a new norm for many people. And that could change the way work is done, could change traffic in Bangalore, for example, potentially could change a lot of things that we've taken for granted, or could have a positive impact potentially on the environment if we can do a lot more things without physically moving around. I think it's opened up, it's accelerated new ways in which we can remotely interact with each other. And this may, other things this potentially could play into is digital reality, augmented reality, virtual reality as ways for people to be interacting with each other and drive more of that developments in those areas as well. In others, we may get more into using technology to have remote experiences, let's see, robots that effectively can be somebody, okay, like give somebody a presence at a place they aren't at by using a robot, to move around, telepresence capabilities. Things like this could become more normal ways of doing stuff, more tools, more move to the cloud, private and public clouds, and development of those resources. There's a whole bunch of things I think that are developing from the current crises that people have, and the need to be able to, in order to control the pandemic, for people not to be interacting with each other. So I think the people that are working now are chiefly working because of the technologies. The fact that they're doing more of it is helping to drive improvement in these technologies, but also increasing the use of these technologies themselves, and leading perhaps to related areas in which we will find new ways of interacting with each other. And one of the consequences of that, for instance, I've not been to a physical conference for a while, but I've been to a whole bunch of virtual conferences, and I've been able to go to effectively participate in events that I could not have physically gone to because the cost and the travel time, and I've been able to virtually be part of them. So I think there's going to be interesting changes that are being brought about by the current situation that could have a long time impact on the way in which we work. And for consultants, you must take into account in terms of the way that you work with other people, interact with them.
Well, thank you, Tom, for all those insights. I think we are almost done with the questions from participants, as I do not see any more questions that we have left unattended. So with this, I think we are good to conclude this talk. And again, I look forward for you to sharing the slides so that we can share that with our participants. And yeah, so for the participants, we shall be having the third and the last session on July 27th, where Tom would be discussing and sharing his insights on consulting best practices and personal experiences. So we shall be sharing the bridge details soon to you for the third session. With this, I would again hand it over back to Tom for the closing comments for the second session, and then if we can wrap it up for the day.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to meet with folks. And but by the way, maybe it'd be interesting to get feedback whether this is giving you folks interesting information that's going to be useful to you. And appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you about something I've been doing for a while, and to share my experiences and provide perhaps some insights that could be helpful.
Definitely, Tom. So we do tend to share the feedback links with our participants to see so that we can cater to their needs in the coming sessions as well. So once we hear back from the feedback, we would also be sharing the same with you for your reference.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you and have a good day.
Okay. Take care.